Uh, Thank you everyone for joining this meeting. And good evening and good morning and good afternoon to all from whichever part of the world you are from. I am Suresh and will be your moderator today and welcome you all on behalf of Top Solutions for webinar leading your DevOps journey. And today's session will be presented by Suresh GP. Suresh GP is currently the founder and managing director of Top Solutions. He has more than 16 plus years of IT experience and specialized in IT service management, IT governance, Agile, DevOps, and business relationship management. Suresh, as a principal consultant, has done consulting, training, simulations, and implementation services for DevOps to Fortune 200 organizations. He was also awarded Top 25 Thought Leaders in Service Management for 2017 by HDI. I'd also like to let you know, Suresh is also the regional leader for Asia Pacific and Middle East at BRM Institute and received 4 BRM Awards, Excellence Awards at BRM Connect 2017. With that, I'll hand over this session to Suresh. And so again, thank you all for participating in the webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Suresh. Welcome, everyone. I'm so grateful that you took the time off to come and join us in the webinar. For the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to talk about DevOps leadership, right? There's a lot of buzz going around this one. So just to get the ball rolling, we have a lot of participants on the group chat. How many of you have understanding of DevOps at a basic level? How many of you think that you are an intermediate, or how many of you think that you are an expert in your DevOps? So that will give us a context in which we drive the discussion accordingly, and then we can do that. So so let us know in the group chat what is your experience on DevOps. Probably that is a good starting point for us to know to do that. You can send it to us, or you can generally do that so that we can place it across. Yeah. So you can click on the chat window. So the chat window is available under options below that, where you click on chat and then add it across. So if you could just give a quick shout out just on the chat window, then we can take it over. Okay, a few people, they say that they've heard and nothing anymore. That's good, because you come with a clean slate, Jay. So we can explain a lot more. Senthil says, I'm a beginner. Okay, so we'll consider that when we talk about it. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll look into a kind of a cross-functional team like here, and we will take on. So if you have any questions, put that into concepts and intermediate. So Aparna says about as an intermediate, she's so modest. Arun Kumar says new to DevOps. Welcome. So it's fine. So we'll get started on this one, and as we go on, we'll probably unearth a lot of these over the period. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to put into this mode, and we'll go ahead. So thanks again for joining. The agenda for today is talking about DevOps Journey. We're going to talk about what are the key kind of DevOps leadership skills that you need to have when you are actually going in an organization, adopting a journey. We'll also talk about creating high performance culture, because essentially all that we are doing in part of the organization is to look at how do we create high performance teams, because the customer is increasingly demanding, and we need to do better and even better as we go on in the journey, right? And there's a lot of things that are happening when we're agile in place, that we talk about self-organizing teams. So we will talk in a while about squads. We talk about autonomous teams. So how do you develop autonomous teams? How can they be self-sufficient? if there is a project, if there is a work to be done, including dev, ops, business teams, how do they all work together and then deliver business value? I'm also going to share you some experience sharing of how to do practical DevOps. We get approached by a lot of the organizations saying that we need to do DevOps, but we do not know where to start. So we say that, okay, that's a good question. So we'll start with the basics. So we put them into an experiential learning, and we'll talk about the Phoenix project simulation, which is a good opportunity for people to understand what it is and how does DevOps work in real time. And we'll have Q&A. So my intent is to spend about 40 minutes on the content and then take the questions, post that on a Q&A mode. Just to start with, for people who do not know, just want to give a couple of minutes on that. So TOB stands for Taking You Beyond. We have headquarters in Bangalore. We have offices in Singapore, and we have done engagements across Southeast Asia. We specialize ourselves in gamification, consulting, training, and implementation services. Our primary mission is focus on value and help our customers reach strategic objectives. So some of you have had experience working with us on a training on DevOps, BRM, SIAM, and so on. But so we do a lot more than training as well in giving value-added services. So let's start with the DevOps journey. But for people who have just said what is new and other stuff, let's talk about what is the business benefit of DevOps, right? Now, the reason why everybody is talking about DevOps in an organization standpoint is time to market. So how quickly can you go? These are indicators from the State of DevOps report from Puppet Labs of 2016. One is improved speed to market. So how quickly can I ship my products and services to the globe, right? Which we call in DevOps terms the lead time for changes. How much lead time do you take from the time the request comes from the customer till the time it gets fulfilled and put into production? The other one is about continuous integration and delivery, because now everybody thinks faster. So Facebook releases a feature every day. Amazon makes, on an average, deployment every 11.2 seconds. So what we are talking about is so much of delivery happening, and we cannot just have a separate QA team, testing team to do that. They all have to be integrated and also automated to do this one. They also want higher quality, fewer failures. Think about the Samsung issue that we had, that the Samsung Galaxy phone had the power problem. So people cannot afford to have this one, and it reduces the stock price. Everything goes down. So they want fewer failures and change fail rates. People want to be innovative. They want innovative solutions, creative. There's a lot of problem in IT companies and a lot of retention. People are just going off because they are not motivated. So how do you increase the employee engagement and job satisfaction? How do you break down silos and eliminate waste? And also look at resource and cost reduction, right? That's where probably we are talking about in the reason why DevOps is getting popular, right? And it started off, if you look at it from an agile way. So from the waterfall method, we moved to agile way of working. Now from agile, we're talking about DevOps. So it's a kind of a gradual evolution that we see, but most of the times, there has to be some trigger to start your journey. So that could be from the client, that could be from your end customer, it could be from your own internal teams. Right? So if you look at how do DevOps organizations differentiate from the traditional way of working, so I've put it into 3 sectors. The first sector is planning and organization, so which is probably about batch size, what's the organization model in terms of skills and competency, what's your scheduling of releases, right? The second one is on performance and culture, right? What's your release frequency? How do you disseminate information? What's the kind of culture? When I have a lot of times when I go to consulting companies, I ask, what is DevOps? Well, DevOps is all about Jenkins, Puppet, Docker, Chef. Well, I'm sorry, then you have not understood DevOps. Now, we should be really careful to use DevOps because DevOps is seem to be, again, a magic wand that will cover and solve the entire world's worries and hunger. It doesn't. So until you change the organization culture, it is not going to work, right? So we're going to talk about culture. Then we're going to talk about metric and the definition of done. So if you look at a quick share, earlier we used to do big batches of work. Now what we are talking about is micro releases. So one of the release is not dependent on the other release. So you can do faster. So we're going to move faster. Now, when we start in organizations of traditional IT, we are talking about people used to be said as you are a Unix guy, you're a Windows guy, you're a Wintel guy, you're a network administrator, you are the developer, tester. They were all focused on skills. Now we're going to talk about dedicated skills. So we talk about a bunch of complementary skills working together in an organization to deliver a product or service. On scheduling front, we used to have centralized releases, right? So there used to be a kind of a change advisory board in the center. They release all of the stuff and do that. Now, each and every department has gone its own way that they can release it as and when they need. Because in one of the setup, you have infrastructure teams where their volume of changes is that not rapid. Whereas if you look at the application development teams, their releases are rapid. So you need to have a different way of release cycle in the way to do that. And you will agree to me, whenever we go with some releases, I know a lot of people have sleepless nights, nightmares, because it's a high risk. We do not know what will go wrong. So everybody is in a trauma. There's a cutover period. Everybody is burning the midnight oil. There's a high risk kind of event that happens in a traditional world. Well, in DevOps, it's all going to happen seamlessly because every minute, every second, you're actually releasing something. So it's just microservices. So it's not actually creating a huge havoc, and it's doable. Information used to be generally disseminated. Now someone is actionably working on it and getting it done. The problem which we have in traditional ways, people say that just do what is asked to be done. It has worked so far, just stick with that. Now, DevOps is talking about fail early, fail fast, so that we can learn from your mistakes and go on and do that. One of the things that I think is very interesting from a metric standpoint is in a traditional, we used to measure in terms of capacity, resources, and cost. Now, the important dimension that is changing with DevOps is time, which is flow. How quickly can I reach from the time that the requirement comes to my product backlog till the time it gets fulfilled and released as a version, right? And in a definition of done, people say, I have done, my work as a developer is done. If something works, doesn't work, it's probably the ops job. I did my job, I'm done. Well, we're talking about here, we're talking about it's ready to deploy. So we are together define the definition of done. As a team, what do you mean by definition of done? Is it the user acceptance testing? Is it making the go or no-go decision? Have we got the minimum viable features, products that we can ship as part of this release? So you see there is a kind of a transformation that needs to happen when you move from a traditional organization to a DevOps organization. Now, going across different parts of the globe and talking about best practices on DevOps, and we'll not have time to go through all of those stuff, and this is what we cover in our courses. Everybody's talking about continuous delivery pipeline. How quickly can I automate my deployment pipeline so that I can go much faster? We're talking about microservices. Microservices being something that is independent and can be released without having a downtime. And that's a huge factor. Remember, any times when you do a release, we used to have a planned downtime, and that's days are gone. People don't have time. They don't have patience to wait across. So the microservices are going to kind of push across to do that. Doing in small batches helps you to do decoupling. Like, for example, instead of doing a complete full-blown Big Bang approach, what we can do is look at one feature functionality that you can release. You decouple certain features or functionality that is important from the release trains. We will talk a bit about autonomous squads in the presentation today. Think, build, measure, a lot more to do on value stream mapping. Value stream mapping is more of a lean approach to look at the entire chain and say, Where are we spending more time? What are the non-valued activities? And then how do you improvise on that? So when we talk to a lot of Fortune 2000 organizations, these are aspects that they think that they are already doing as part of their DevOps journey, in terms of implementation, in terms of doing daily stand-up meetings. So we'll talk a bit on that as well. Now, one of the elements that we need to think is about design principles. Now, before we architect a journey on DevOps, what we need to know is what are the key design principles in which you have to organize your DevOps. So there are 4 things: focus, work, information, and metrics. So what do you mean by this? So next slide, I'm going to talk about it. We need to focus only on applications that matter. So think about the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. Not every applications require continuous delivery, right? If you have an intranet application, why would you have to have daily releases? Because that's not what you need. But if it's supposed to be a payroll application or something like that, you're releasing new features so the consumers can do billing, can do consumer service much faster. Those things require a much more rapid delivery, rapid deployment strategy, right? So you need to really focus on only the critical applications that matter the most, right? We need to restructure how work is being performed. So when I say how work is being better, how is the flow? So we talk a lot about flow. If you have gone through the Phoenix project, Gene Kim talks about moving from left to right faster so that you don't get stuck. So if the development team starts working, how quickly can you push it to the production environment? So during that particular thing, you need to do a value stream mapping, which is where do we spend most of the time? Is it for waiting of the environment to get ready? Is it for waiting for requirements? How do we actually kind of get this in place? Yeah? How to build an organization that creates and shares information real time? A lot of times we cannot live with legacy data. Now today we are talking about big data analytics that helps us to kind of bond quickly and then quickly make decisions on your app to do that. And look at time as the key performance metric. Don't look at just cost and capacity. If you focus on time to get moved faster, and that's what we need because there's so huge competition. If I don't deliver it now, someone is going to get the deal across, right? So that's the part that we need to think about in way of working. Now for this, we require different kind of skills. We call this as transformational leaders. In an agile world, we used to call servant leaders. Now, who's a servant leader? A servant leader is someone who knows the stuff, who leads the team from the front and does that. Now, many of the organizations we talk about, and I'm a big fan of Simon, is to start with the golden circle. Why do we need to do DevOps? What's the purpose of doing DevOps? How are you going to do that? And what? So everybody in the world know how to do it better. They know what products and services they do, but they don't resonate with why, the purpose, the cause and belief that they need to do something. So before you start anything on DevOps, you're saying, what is the biggest challenge that you have? But more importantly, what you are as a company. What do you exist? Why do you exist as a company? And what is your mission objectives? Because if people don't get empowered, people don't get inspired by that purpose, then you will never do it. And that's the whole point that we need to start looking at the golden circle. So when you talk about transformation leader, they see the support of their team's work, both in technical practice and product management capabilities. How do you inspire them? Now, you need to inspire people with a vision and passion. And that's something is very, very important for you as leaders when you drive a transformation. It's very, very difficult, I'll tell you. You need to look at with your vision, with your value system, with your communication, in terms of making sure that you walk the talk. A lot of the times, people get inspired when you walk the talk. You know, a lot of people come there and give all of those information as, we will do that and other stuff, but in real practice, they don't do that. So you need to inject enthusiasm, energy, and that's why you need to go back into the golden circle of why, and that will inspire a lot of people to do some things valuable. Now, From a dimension of transformation leadership, if we are able to break it down into 5 key elements, you need to have a vision that is so powerful that aligns with your mission, purpose, and existence and belief. You need to challenge the team with your status quo. What are we doing in the stand-up meeting? We're just asking them, is this the best way we can do? So that you constantly ask, is there a better way to do something else? And because it's a self-organizing team, they decide how to run the show. It's not driven by a manager, a business leader. It's managed by the team, the squad. And that is what makes it powerful, because they challenge each other to do things better, and continuous improvement, it becomes a part of your DNA. So how do you inspire people is to look at motivating to how much value that you can create for customers. I had a customer who said, we did a simulation across, and then he said, well, I didn't know this simulation was so powerful. He said, this is truly inspirational because my teams are charged up because we gave them beyond the scope of a regular training. So you need to find out that magic ingredient that will motivate your teams to perform for the highest level. A lot of leaders are more IQ driven. I think gone are the days that your intelligent quotient is measured. We need to start looking at emotional quotient. How do we actually treat people? How do you consider other person's feeling? How do you look at their interest, individual interest? That is very, very critical now. Today, every employee has got an option to do work or not do work. So why would he stick to a company? I remember Narayana Murthy saying this word, love your job, but not your company, because you never know when your company will stop loving you. So it's true. You need to start looking at loving your job, passionate about doing that. So you need to also look at personal recognition. How do you compliment people for taking risk of experimenting something new? If you say, I told you 100 times, this will not work. In spite of that, you did that. What do you mean by that? That will never work. So when we, at one time, we talk about fail fast, fail early, but you don't give the opportunity for people to experiment and do that, that is not going to work. So these are some of the aspects that we need to think about as a transformational leader when you try to drive DevOps journey. And the core is culture part of it. How do you focus it as a service mindset? So how do you make people understand it's not the product that sells, it's the service behind, the value that we call about. In service management, we talk about utility and warranty. Because together, it can deliver, but it also lies on the perception of the end customer. The perception keeps on changing. So each and every one in the value chain, right from being a developer till the time in ops, a business, everybody will have to put the shoes of a service mindset. We need to deliver high quality products and continuous support. Now, this is where we have a problem because ops is being taken as a black box. They are not getting that kind of support. And I see in a lot of these cases where ops team do not get involved in agile stand-up meetings. They don't get involved in the product backlog meetings. They don't get involved in the retrospectives. So it's important that you need to take the entire value chain as part of the system and make sure everybody is equally responsible, end-to-end responsible to do that. Now, how do you create high-performance teams? Now, one of the things that could be shocking for you and for me as well, but this is the reality, guys. Today, organizations are not going to hire specialists. Gone are the days that we were hired for being a network administrator, a developer, a tester, and all of those stuff. That days are all gone. The golden days are all gone. What we really need is we need to have a T-shaped structure where you need to be a specialist in one area, could be a development or a testing, but you also need to have a broader knowledge on other skills, which we call as generalist or broad knowledge. And as we start growing, this chain is what you move from the breadth is more important rather than the depth. And in an autonomous squad, And in the culture that we are talking about complementing skills, because you're talking about cross-functional teams, it's important to understand a broader skills are more important than specialist skills. I'll take a pause here. If you have any questions, I'll have a look at if you have any questions on this moment. In terms of transformation, in terms of leadership, in terms of what we have been talking so far. Okay, so I'll go ahead with that. Now, this is from Daniel Pink. In his book, he talks about what makes people intrinsically motivated. Now, there are three key elements that decides the aspect of motivation. And that's the essence in which squads work today. First is autonomy. The need of people to have control over what they do, when they do it, who they do it, and how they do it. For example, if you work in a company and you have certain tasks to do, if people say that you have to come to office, you need to swipe your card, you need to stay for 8 years, well, that days are gone. As long as you're able to do the work, wherever you can stay in Starbucks, you can do it in airport, you can do it in your house. It doesn't matter. As long as you give them autonomy, and that's the kind of empowerment you go, and so that they do their work without deviating with what is to be delivered, what is the problem? So you need to provide autonomy for your teams to do that. So think yourself as a question, do you have autonomy in the way we do your work? Second is mastery. Very important is you need to be having dedication and hard work. You need to practice and practice. I remember I was in a Toyota workshop, I think somewhere in Shanghai, where there was a guy with about 19 years of experience in Toyota. And suddenly there was a strange sound that was heard in the assembly line. And he said there's a problem with, the problem is with the crankshaft. I was amazed because he was sitting on the corner of that particular machine, but he was able to identify that it requires mastery. So you spend 19 years going this over and over and over and again. That's why you become masters. So today's generation, the millennials, want to do quickly and then move on. That doesn't work. You need to have dedication, hard work, and flexibility so that you can learn new skills. You can complement yourself so that you can master that particular thing. That's very important, right? So mastery of your skills, your core skills, is very important to do that. But more importantly, purpose. Why do you need to do this? What's your every day in Monday morning, do you wake up and say, wow, I'm thrilled to go to my job because I love my job so much. This is why I do this. That's where people get motivated. Just ask your question among yourself. How many of you actually jump out of the bed on a Monday morning and say, wow, I'm going to do it? Or you say, oh my gosh, another Monday to start. I wish Friday was too short. That's how people look at it. We have a lot of frameworks. I'm not going to go into the detail, but look at how do you motivate your teams to do ongoing improvement. How do you get that mindset change in terms of Kaizen, in terms of plan, do, check, act, in terms of Gemba. Gemba is leaders by walking, problem solving. How do you work team to give them the kind of tools and aspects that they can help them to be better in what they do? A lot of times, I think this is what people do, and this is a great exercise to do experimentation meetups. So we call it as hackathon, we call it as hack day, where people are undisturbed. They have a particular kind of prototype. They develop some kind of innovation ideas. They're undisturbed. They get locked down into a room for 2 days, 3 days. They work across and they develop a prototype. Now, that's where a lot of innovation happens across, right? Organizations use up to 20% of employees' time to work on innovations. So you see, this is giving them a purpose of what they can do. So it also motivates people to think out of the box rather than just doing the same thing again and again and again. How do I come and talk about, how do I contribute? It's kind of contribution to the organization. What kind of ideas that I can do this to make my products and services better? And honestly, all of the great ideas reside within your own organization. It's just about how do you leverage that and take advantage of it. So what does it take to build an autonomous teams? There are three aspects. The first is you need to understand who's your customer. What's the process? How do they use your service? The second one is you obviously need to do your technology stack. That's why you have your tools, your processes, your metrics, everything. How do they work? Continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, all the 5 C's, and also the knowledge and skills that we talk about. Do you need to have business analysis skills? Do you have to have programming skills? Do you need to have security skills? So you need to really look at how do you put us as a team for you to develop a product or a service, right? The autonomy of teams, and these are examples where we call it as business teams and then platform teams. So the essence is to drive autonomy. So when you need to drive autonomy, we need to look at how to work with cross-functional teams and then drive an aspect of these are people who are front-ending the customers, but they need to have all of these teams actually supporting them to get it done. So be it your monitoring, your backup, your logging, your control, your discovery, all of those stuff will have to work together in tandem in order to deliver business value. Now that's where Spotify, one of the famous music companies, have organized themselves in squads. And I'm going to spend some time in squads, but the way they do it is they have a separate team. I'm going to talk about that in a while. They have, they call it a tribe. So there's a team for music player, there's a team for mobile, store, search, and they have different teams. And each tribe, they start and work together to deliver the final product or outcome. Right? What we call this is the model. Now, squad is nothing but your agile teams, your self-organizing teams. So think about squad as something which is defined like an agile team. Important thing, in a squad, every member will have to be in the same physical location. You cannot have squads. You can have cross-functional squad, but typically in Spotify model, squads sit together. And they report to a product owner, which is, in our agile way, the person who makes the decision in terms of the backlog, in terms of the user story, in terms of what is going to go in this part of the sprint. Yeah. Now, a group, the squads are bound by business capability. And related squads or related capable skills form a tribe. So in the previous example, we say these are squads, individual squads in the music player. They all form together in part of the tribe. So related capabilities put together, they form a tribe. And then they have chapters. Now the chapters mean that's a kind of working with the teams together, right? So with these teams, they actually focus on similar skills. They have similar skills that they can look at and leverage. So these are probably testing team. These are probably developer teams they can actually work on, and then they can actually fix this particular part. Now, there's another one called guild, which is a special interest group. So you can have a set of coaches, scrum masters, product owners. They can actually cross-sell each other or kind of work together in an enterprise to create that. So there's a lot of knowledge sharing happening. There's a lot of support that happens. We work with the teams together. So they have a better ownership. They are self-sufficing. They are autonomous in paper, right? And that's a beauty of looking at these structures. They also look at their performance. So for example, this is squad 1, squad 2. What do they do in terms of the product owner? Are they good, bad, ugly? How are they moving, from one to another, right? Are they improving those? So the first icon is the current version and where they're heading to. What's the current state and where they're heading to? So it gives a measure of how this cross-functional teams and squads help them to move towards the journey, how they can kind of influence and make that work, because these are all very soft skills aspects. You cannot just measure that, but you can at least do a trending to see how that works in practice. And importantly, it's not about the effectiveness of a solution depends on quality of the technical solution as well as acceptance from an end consumer. So that only will work for a transformation. So don't just give solutions if they are not accepting it. It's not fitting into what the customer needs. The customer is going to hate it. They're not going to love what you're talking about. So with that, I come into the last section of practical DevOps. I did talk about the experiential learning, and I'm going to give you an example. If you want your organizations to enter into a DevOps journey, where do you start with? There are some core aspects we need to bring as part of attitude, behavior, culture. So how do you create a DevOps enterprise? The first thing is a shared vision. So in the game that we do, we give a scenario where they have to make about $300,000 within that particular 3 rounds. So there is a vision, a goal that everybody is focused, be it a developer, be a tester, ops guy, all focused on a shared vision to achieve the business benefits. Well, if you have done DevOps Foundation with us, what does COMS denote? Culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing. So it's very critical to apply it into your organization if you need to be having the right culture, right automation in place, reduce the waste, measure the right metrics, and also share the knowledge, which is what we talked about, tribes and squads. The next one, if you look at the DevOps ways, 3 ways of moving things faster, which is the flow. The second thing is basically shortening and amplifying feedback loops and continual experimentation learning. So in the rounds that we play in the Phoenix project simulation, people actually start in the first round looking at how to move faster, and suddenly then they say, oh my God, I need to get this testing team involved. So they embark on continuous integration. We also find out how quickly can we fix issues, and then also look at, because we do not know all the information to take decisions. So how do you do continual experimentation and learning? So how do you visualization? This is in the game that we play, we have Kanban boards. We look at the velocity of the team, how much that they can actually do. It's a 20 units of work. It's the app team, the IT action team. These are the product backlog. On the left-hand side that you see is basically the features or issues or functionality that you need to fulfill as part of that particular sprint. Yeah. So you can see a stand-up meeting where they look at their Kanban boards of in progress, done, and then they actually able to help each other, support each other, and do that. So we talk about flow. How quickly can we move from this team to other team so that we don't spend a lot of time waiting in the way we do these things. Yeah. Product ownership. Is it part of the development team? Is it part of the operations team? Who is doing what end to end? Because at the end of the day, the customer doesn't care whether it's the dev team or ops team, as long as it delivers value, which is basically both the feature and functionality as well as the support. So that has to be a product ownership. So people have to start thinking like a product owner, end to end. And a lot of times you get unplanned work. Now, if you look at the report from Puppet Labs, it says 20% less time on unplanned work and rework. Now, if you're a high-performing organization and you plan your agile sprints and deliver some stuff, you need to understand there is a lot of time, there is scope of unplanned work, because everything cannot be planned, because suddenly there will be an issue coming in. You cannot say that I'm working on my sprint, I cannot do this, I'll do it later. So you need to have availability of unplanned work. So you don't, when you estimate your velocity, when you estimate your user stories and number of times that you go across, you need to still have some amount of leeway to get your unplanned work fulfilled, so that you focus on the most critical ones to do that. Sharing knowledge. How much time do you share the knowledge? So this is an organization that we went about where they share their knowledge every day at 9:30. And they have their stick-on notes that they tell about what did they learn as part of that day. And it's probably on a war room. So everybody can go there and visualize it. What's the thing? And they get up to date. So they don't need to check their emails. It's a friendly kind of a coffee talk. Go there, talk about it, and then move across to do that. And then they also write topics I want to hear about it. So they want to write about something, and then they can start discussing about it. So you can kind of work together and see what you can help and share across. Continuous learning and experience, which is what this game is talking about, based on your concrete experience, reflective observation. How do you start experimenting and doing that? You need to have good metrics. And this is the team where they look at their share price going from $23 to $42. What is the revenue that they make? And in every round, what were the number of deployments they done? How much very successful? What are the errors? What are the issues? So we actually give you a metric of the team's performance in every round so that you're able to relate how you are applying your DevOps in real practice, right? So that's the metrics that we talk about. In the squads, we need to do collaboration. So the teams actually work together, the cross-functional teams. They look at the right cards, they work and then apply it and solve that. We need to have stand-up meetings. So these teams actually have to work together, look at the most pressing issues that they have to solve between features, issues, functionality, what revenue that they make, and then do that part, right? Feedback is very critical. And that is me along with Paul Wilkinson in Amsterdam, where we are trying to fight against and says, this is the feedback from the product owner. What are we going to fix it in this round? So you need to have an instant feedback from the team so that they're able to make decisions without having a long elaborative meetings to do that. So the 15-minute stand-up meeting or daily stand-up meeting is a fantastic way to do that. And you know that we are multifunctional teams. So organize them in like squads that we talked about, tribes, so that you know who is working and how we can work as a team to get this done. So that comes to me to the end of what I wanted to discuss. We have all of these courses that we offer for you to do the courses, and you can get a certificate badge of doing that. So there is an upcoming. So we have DevOps Test Engineer, Continuous Delivery Architect. DevSecOps is still not released. DevOps Leader. This is not yet released. Agile Service Manager and Agile Process Owner. So we are doing all of the courses of DOI for corporates as well as for individuals. So you can get in touch with us if you need to enroll in any of the courses. These are advanced courses, so for which you need to have at least the DevOps Foundation certificate from DOI. So we are having an upcoming course in February 3rd and 4th that we can kind of talk about. These are, again, 2 days course where we talk in much more detail as we were talking about these stuff. And it could be an online exam or paper-based exam, depending on that. And you scored that well. Yeah. So from a training and webinars, before I open it up for this one, we are doing the DevOps Leader course virtual because we have got a lot of requests from across the globe. So we're opening it up for 3rd and 4th February 2018. So if you like to enroll with us, please do send out an email to info@topsolutions.com. We also are doing a DevOps Foundation course virtual on 24th and 25th February to get that. So if you want to do a leader, you need to get a DevOps Foundation certified and do that. One good news that I want to open it up for team. We have also been certified on the new game on Agile, DevOps, and Service Culture. So we're going to launch the Mars Lander business simulation in Bangalore. It's a one-day workshop on 17th February. If you're interested to take part in that part, and this is going to be a free session where you can experience some of the simulations, please do reach out to us. And we have limited seats. We are accepting 1 or 2 from every company so that we want to give opportunity for everybody to come there and participate and ask any questions. With that, Suresh, I'll hand it over if you have any to open up to the team. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions, and you can ask us if there are anything on the DevOps Leader on any aspects.
Yeah, thank you, Suresh, for your wonderful presentation. I think the team has got the enough information they want. Please send the questions to a chat, or you can even unmute yourself and ask a question to Suresh. We have another 10 minutes left.
So I'll probably throw it off to Aparna. Aparna, in your organizations and what you've seen, what is the biggest challenge for DevOps leaders in your experience? Why don't you share with the team, because you have a lot of experience on managing teams. What do you think is the biggest challenge with driving DevOps journey?
Thank you, Suresh. I think it's the reason which DevOps has been formed, and communication. So that's one thing which is the ultimate goal which DevOps is supposed to solve.
Yeah.
Though we talk about process and automation, which enables the entire process.
Right.
How do we make a team which is more communicative? So that's where the culture aspect comes into play. A culturally fit team,
right,
who do not who look at the operations or the development under the same umbrella. That doesn't happen. So how do we bring that in?
Yeah. So we lost in between. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great point, Aparna, because it's very easy said than done. The culture change, because it has developed over a period of time. And if you don't do that, then it actually doesn't help each other, right? So it's very tough. And that's why I think leaders like you will have to drive that from an aspect of how to bring that organizational change. And you have to be equipped. When someone is talking about this one, we need to get equipped ourselves of what do you mean by the issues with testing, you know? So when we went through these courses, we get a lot more deep insight of how much is this world of testing on enterprise architecture all intertwined. So you start appreciating each and every team when you have a broader understanding of what needs to be done. Yeah. So that's something I think is very valuable. I would also want to check if there is any other topics that you want to be of interest for our upcoming webinar series. Please share it to us, and we will be happy to do that as part of the ongoing exercises. Anything else that we have at the moment, Suresh or team?
Yeah, I'm just seeing, and there is no questions as of right now. Maybe you can give another 4-5 minutes if you have anyone.
Quick question. In this group that we have right now, are there any other companies or groups that are implementing DevOps?
Yes. Yeah, so that's a good question. If someone is already there, I mean, there's a lot of people who have registered, but I think a few people who have online and a few people will go back. But yeah, it will be a good thing to see in your organizations. You have already started with DevOps or been experienced. Feel free to share with us, because I think that will help us to see where the journey is.
Yeah, Suresh, my client Alison has already, started implementing DevOps.
Excellent. So, is there any Jay in terms of what they are doing? Is there any? Are everybody getting involved, or is a specific initiative that they are driving?
Right, everybody is getting involved in nowadays.
Excellent. And today, everywhere we meet and talk with people, everybody is saying, "Oh, DevOps is going big." But where do you start? I think that's where is the most important aspect. I went to one of the customer in Bangalore. They had invited us to do a 3-day course, 2 days of DevOps Foundation and the simulation. And the leader came there and spoke, because they're all DevOps. They were already doing DevOps. He said, "I don't care what you do. I want you to come up with an open mind. First, understand the philosophy. And then we talk about science of philosophy of DevOps, then the science of DevOps, and then the engineering of DevOps." Unfortunately, most of the organizations we see, they just go into the engineering, they talk about tools, automation, without understanding the science or philosophy behind DevOps. So one of the things I would strongly recommend you, when someone is talking about DevOps, ask them what is DevOps. You will get 10 different answers, because it's like a blind man looking at the elephant and looking at one part of the body and saying this is what DevOps is all about. So getting a common understanding within your own teams as what is DevOps is very critical for your journey to be successful. Unfortunately, most of the people are not getting involved, or they're not interested. So sharing the big picture, how you can all work together as a team and how we can support each other to make their jobs as well as their performance well. That's where I think we need to kind of focus and do that. So I hope that gives you some insights about and helps it across to see how we can do it better. Yeah. So I would definitely thank you everyone for your time. And what we will do also is we'll share the presentation deck as well as the recording of the webinar into a Dropbox or stuff. So you can do that. But if you have any queries, inquiries.
Yeah. So there is one question from Sindhil.
Yeah.
He said it will be very helpful if you include specific tools for continuous integration, continuous delivery.
Yeah. So good question, Sindhil. So when we talk about the DevOps Leader course, I spend a lot of time in what are the setups of tools that we have. We start with Jenkins. We talk about what is continuous integration meaning there. We look at SonarQube. We look at Puppet, Chef. So I'll be more than happy to share more insights when we do the next course, probably third. We will do definitely the common things. And one of the workshops that we are talking about here in a customer in Pune, that Hari, our CIO, is there, is they want to look at the CI/CD pipeline of toolchain for AWS stack, for Microsoft, for Google. So we are working on that. We'll be happy to share that. So we should still have that tool chain as an integral part of it. So we'll be happy to share more than that. Okay. Anything?
What will be the foundation? Sorry. What will be the cost of foundation virtual class?
Yeah. So what I would do is I will. You can send that out to query to
Suresh, to me.
Sitaraman, and he will get in touch. So because any inquiries on this one, it's easier for us to source it and then send it across. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can do that. And in fact, virtual is getting popular these days, as you know, Jay, because most of the people are busy. They cannot travel. So it gives them the flexibility to do that. And we also have to become agile. So it gives us open up the opportunity. Aparna is in Hyderabad. We have another person in New Zealand. A lot of other people are asking across. So catering to a wider audience, the virtual classes help. So we will start with that.
Yeah, the virtual classes is instructor-led, and of course, as we also do face-to-face in classroom courses. So we have both, but right now, as Suresh pointed out, there are many people who distribute across the world. They are looking for courses. So we kind of started a virtual session, and we are getting a lot of traction for that, and there are a lot of inquiries coming in across the globe. And this February 3rd and 4th, we have 3 or 4 people signed for the course. So yeah, Jay, I'll be sharing information with you offline, and we do virtual as well as face-to-face. It depends upon your need.
And if you have teams that you have want to do it, we can come and do it for your corporate as well, right? And so that there's an entire team that needs to get an awareness session of what it is. So we've been doing with a lot of corporates as well. We do the 2 days training as well as the simulation, or they just want the simulation. We can do that. And so any inquiries on that, feel free to reach out to info at Top Solutions or Suresh at Top Solutions, because he's doing he's managing the leads and inquiries. So be more than happy.
And Sendil has given his comment. It was a wonderful session, presented very, very well. So
thank you so much. And what I really want you guys is to take this as a journey, and we are here to support you. And it requires a lot of complete working with your organization. So how to create interest in an organization, why we need to do that. So there's a lot of things I think you have to drive that in our organization, and we will be happy to be your learning and skill development partner to work with you, handhold you to take through this journey. Because I think as Aparna said, it's a journey. You cannot just do with tools and just figure it out. You need to create people's change, people's metric, behavior. So we have to do all that is needed to create that traction. So stay intact with us. And if you have any...
I want to add what Suresh has said. Basically, at Top Solutions, you are not just trainers. We are practitioners. In our session, you will see that the quality of this is more about being a practitioner than a trainer. And we ensure that you get enough information or knowledge because like Suresh and the other person, Hari, they have a lot of business knowledge they share with across. So it will be more like a practitioner. We are not purely trainer. We are a practitioner. So also before I close, I want to let you know that we will be sharing the recording. You can share it with your friends. And also at this occasion, I want to tell you that there is a lot of blogs we have in our website. Please look at our blogs, which talks about the latest on DevOps and other areas. So please verify our blogs and see. You will have enough information from our blogs also.
Yep. So thank you so much for all your time and thing. 26 is a holiday in India, so I wish everyone a good time and thanks so much for your time, and we will keep you posted with future webinars. Thank you again. Have a great.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Suresh.